Let's cross live now to Sarah Morice, who's been following the story from London for us. Hi, Sarah. Are we any closer to actually knowing how this fire started and what caused it to spread so fast?
Well, Andrea, today a number of expert opinion reports have been released to coincide with this next phase of the inquiry. And according to expert opinion, the fire started on the 4th level of Grenfell Tower in one of the flats, and it started in or around a fridge freezer. Now, the report couldn't conclusively say what actually started the fire, so what caused it, but it did say it was unlikely to have been deliberate, more likely to have been an accident. Now, we learnt that the fire then spread from this flat. It went out the flat's kitchen window, it caught a light on the outside of Grenfell Tower, and then the fire spread back into that same flat via another bedroom window. It then spread throughout the rest of the flat and, of course, as we know, throughout the rest of the building. So we now have an idea, I guess, of how that fire started. But most interestingly, you'll remember at the time of the fire, there was a lot of speculation about some cladding that had been put on the outside of the building during a recent refurbishment. There was speculation that that cladding had caused the fire to spread far more rapidly than had been expected. Today, from these expert opinions, we now have an opinion that, yes, that is exactly the case, that this cladding was to blame. What we understand is that the cladding was put on the outside of the building, and some of the windows that were replaced were not put in properly. There were gaps. There are also gaps in some vents that are supposed to be in place to stop fire spreading. So we understand the installation of this cladding looks to have been a problem. We understand that there was foil that should have been wrapped around insulation that went under the cladding that wasn't there. So this is why the fire spread so rapidly, and we're also learning that no one seems to have tested this cladding before it was put on the building. Not fire brigades, not the company that's in charge of administering the building, and not even the designers who decided to put this cladding on the building.
So there may be a long chain of responsibility to discover there, Sarah. But let me ask you this. There was another issue that at the time of the fire, residents were actually told by the fire department to stay put, to stay in their apartments rather than to try to escape. What are they saying about that now, as it was highly criticized when it was discovered that that was, in fact, the worst advice they could have received?
Well, Andrea, it's now being highly criticised by these experts. They're saying that it clearly was the wrong advice to give. Now, in normal circumstances, in these huge residential tower blocks, that is the advice. Stay in your apartment because there are things inside the building to stop the fire spreading. However, it became very clear in this fire pretty early on that those measures weren't working. The cladding was causing this fire to move at such a rapid pace that staying inside your flat was clearly not going to be the right thing to do. And there's been some criticism of the fire brigade that they didn't react to this quickly. Yes, the standard policy is to have people stay inside their buildings, but when you realise that's not working, then that policy needs to change. And there is some talk that really that should have been discovered and the policy should have changed within half an hour. So you can imagine the residents who were involved in this fire and those who lost loved ones in this fire, how they're going to react to the news they're hearing today. They've already been very angry and very critical of the authorities surrounding this building. They feel they were, in some ways, left to die in that building, and perhaps we now have evidence that clearly the wrong strategies were followed on the night of the fire.
Okay, Sarah joining us live there from London. Thanks so much for